Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Tap this ad to learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information.
Why have I asked my electrician I found on Angie.com to bury my pet hamster? I was so moved by how carefully he buried my electrical wires, I knew I could trust him to bury my sweet nibbles after his untimely end.
This is very strange.
Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, a pair of lovers point the finger at each other when a body is unearthed in their basement. Which one is responsible for the deadly encounter? We'll review the documentary series Murder in Glitterball City on HBO. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of The Final Curtain, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, it is our captain of all things cynical, author of the City trilogy of novels, host of Rip Current, More Like Ancient Phalians, Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast, Toby Ball. Hola, Toby.
Hola, Rebecca.
So, Kevin, this is Monday's program.
It is.
What's coming up on Thursday's show?
On Thursday, we're going to talk about a podcast from Pushkin Industries. It's called Valley of Shadows.
Valley of Shadows.
Because we've done Bone Valley. Do we need to have a new Valley?
I think it sounds like Valley of Shadows sounds like, what's that vampire show? But
Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows, or They Live in the Shadows, or whatever it is. But it's not that.
No, it's definitely not that.
Not about vampires.
Definitely not about but Bigfoot does make an appearance.
Does Bigfoot make an appearance?
Bigfoot makes an appearance, yes.
Any crooked cops?
There's a hint of Bigfoot.
There's a soupçon of Bigfoot. So, yeah, exactly.
Sort of like that Bigfoot show we watched on Hulu or...
Oh, that was so disappointing.
Yeah.
What a disappointment that was. It had the Bigfoot in the name and everything.
Yeah.
Sasquatch.
Yes.
Or Hunting Sasquatch or whatever it was.
Hunting Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Hunting Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah. It was not about that, it turns out.
No, it was not about
that. It was about
that.
pot.
Right.
And murder. All right. Should we talk about the thing we're going to be talking about? It's pretty wild.
Let's do that.
All right. Leading off.
You'll notice that he is sitting or lying on the bed near me. That is only because I have a gun pointed at him. The gun is right here. And he is right there.
After a routine domestic disturbance call at a Louisville home, Jeffrey Mundt and Joey Banis shocked police by revealing a dead body was in their basement. The ex-lovers each accused the other of killing a drag performer during a ménage à trois and being forced to help bury the victim beneath the dirt floor.
It wasn't something that they could just kind of scrape off a little bit of dirt and pop open the trunk. It was a hole dug 6 to 8 feet deep. I mean, it was a deep hole.
With one defendant an ex-con and the other into sadistic kinks, attorneys used their pasts to paint each other as liars and killers. But years after their trials, their community still revels in the salacious crime and questions of whether justice was served.
They beat him with a sledgehammer. They'd stuff him in a Rubbermaid in their basement. And for 6 months, they live happily ever after. I still can't believe that he's not guilty.
Murder in Glitterball City from HBO Documentary Films looks at the 2009 case and tries to parse whether one or both of the suspects are responsible for the death of Jamie Carroll. It also uses a cast of unconventional community members reading aloud from a true crime book to explore themes of gay identity, toxic intimacy, and Louisville's quirky subcultures. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about significant plot points from Murder in Glitterball City. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So, Toby, this documentary has a framing device, at least especially in the first episode, they use it a lot, where there's this local guy who has written this, I don't want to call it bad, but I will call it purple, true crime book about this crime and the town in which he lives and the neighborhood in which he lives. And we have this incredible thing where, kind of like in that Michael Jordan documentary, you've got people reading the book and reading about themselves and how they're described in the book and scenes from the book. And it's the real people who are from the book, because there's a tremendous amount of people in this documentary. What do you think about that framing device?
Well, I've got two thoughts about it. One is it's pretty fun to watch. It's a surprisingly good way to get a sense of the personality of these people, because they're not only reading something about themselves that somebody has written, but then you get to see their reaction to it and just the way they read it. And it's kind of fun to watch.
Just then, a woman with a frizzy head of auburn hair emerged from behind Dale. Yeah, it's really sad, she said. More ammunition for the East End housewives. Fuck 'em. Let 'em stay out in their McMansions. Deborah Richards never minced words.
On the other hand, most of that stuff has absolutely nothing to do with the actual crime. It's just like local color, So
yeah.
I thought it was fun. People who want their shows lean and mean may find it a little bit superfluous to the actual crime itself, but especially since they didn't really seem to be part of this community. They seem to have a house that was in amongst the houses that these people are in, but they didn't hang out with them or go to their cocktail parties or anything like that.
Yeah. What about you, Laura? Did you like the reading from the book scenes in the documentary?
I did. Now, normally, I don't think I would have liked that. I'd be like, oh, this is stupid. What I liked about it was that it was really kind of like an insider view of this neighborhood from somebody who lived in this neighborhood, who was giving their little commentary on all these cast of characters. And I was like, I want to go visit with all these people. Now, I did this once in 8th grade where I wrote all about my impressions of my new classmates when I went to a regional junior high. It was not so well received when it was found as it was in this documentary. Still one of the traumatic moments of my early Laura Bricker writing days. But here, I just think that this book about the case, it kind of brought us into it in a way that felt relatable, and it felt like you could just envision, for me anyway, the way that these people were described and the expressions and the tone of the writing really kind of brought me into this story in a different way. And I liked how they kind of layered it throughout, and you'd see it in the background. And the fact that they're now having ghost tour murder tours in this neighborhood as well. I'm like, go for it.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really creative. And I thought introducing us to all these people who aren't really involved is... the way it was done through the book is so much less heavy lifting than giving us just sort of a slog of color, meet this person and meet this person. Because obviously they had access to all the people, all of them. If someone's mentioned in the book, they're in this documentary. If somebody is the wife of someone who's mentioned in the book, she's probably in the documentary. The lady in the back of the beauty shop is in the documentary because she tosses a question over her shoulder. But we do meet people, I think, that we never would have met otherwise. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, people that probably, like you said, have no purpose in being in the documentary other than to provide that color. It has a sensible quirkiness to this technique. The framing device of having the people read their passages aloud is, shall I use the word, novel? It's pretty novel. We haven't seen this before. And I also say, as a true crime author, I certainly would not want to see people's reactions reading aloud the stupid thing I wrote about them.
And what they wore.
And whether they had, a strapping head of hair or whatever the descriptor is.
I always think of that cop with the giant arms, his arms were so big that he couldn't roll his uniform shirt down. That wasn't a description that we had in one of our books.
No, it was? Okay.
State trooper. The giant arms.
Sounds about right. Definitely sounds about right.
Armaganian?
Oh, yes.
Could have been. Oh, yeah.
That's exactly who it was.
He's a big guy.
I know who that guy is.
Oh, yeah.
That's
big guy.
incredible.
Yeah.
Laura, by the way, I'm delighted to know that you had the same plot line as Harriet the Spy when you were a child, writing about all the people and then getting called out. That's very funny.
Yeah.
Didn't that happen in Clueless, too? Something like that? Yeah.
So,
but you're right. We have coverage of people like that are not only not connected, but they're connected to people who are not connected.
Right.
It's never explained, and I guess it doesn't need to be, but why we have
the gold people?
The pawn shop people. I think maybe because this is how the author, who is also a tour guide, so we know he has no money if he's doing those two things. I guess he starts the book there referring to the locally famous, very weird TV commercial. So we go to the pawn shop, and not only do we meet the guy who runs the pawn shop, and we meet his wife, we also meet his security guard for some reason.
Yeah.
We're following around the security guard because the security guard was also in some of the more memorable local TV ads.
Yep.
And this should be almost tonally offensive.
I love it.
Because it's so different from this brutal murder. But for some reason, this balancing act seemed to work, at least for me.
yeah, it totally kept me away from my other screen, 100%.
Did you guys read Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil?
Yes.
Yeah.
This was very much like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very
That's
much.
what they were going for.
The Southern Gothic true crime thing, yeah.
Toby, the documentary opens with this wild piece of video. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's it starts off and you see this guy Joey. He's got a good look going. He's got like this little like a line of a beard, and it's kind of a good looking guy. And I think he's wearing like a shirt and tie or whatever. But he says that he's there. He wants to video this so people witness him killing himself, and he says that he was guilty of a murder. And then he says, my partner or whatever is on the bed, and he's standing there because I've got a gun, and shows a gun. And then they show the bed, and there's this guy, Jeff, who you don't know who he is at the time, but you find out more about him later. And he's just like lying on the bed, and it's a little bit unclear, like if he's just like out of it or what's going on. But that's sort of the opening scene. It's just that. And it's very intense. And especially when you're getting it without any kind of context, it really sets a certain tone for the rest of the show.
My name is Joseph Richard Banis, mostly known as Joey. I'm recording my death for the purpose of informing all informed or all concerned of my own willful suicide and the complete non-involvement or culpability of anyone else. Specifically of my boyfriend, lover, life partner, and friend, my one, Jeffrey Stephen Mundt.
I get why they did it, and I think it was effective, and I think it's effective in sort of setting up the sort of intensity of the situation in which these guys were living. It also sets up this stuff that happens in the trial towards the end, because this is just a part of a series of 3 videos. This is just the middle part of it. And when you do get some context, it kind of changes the meaning of everything. So anyway, yeah, I thought it was, it definitely, like, it doesn't start slow. there's not a whole lot of like easing in. It's just like starts off super intense, and it definitely got my attention.
Yeah, it definitely was a great choice to start off with that. We'll call it the suicide video, because I think it's misdirection without needing to like later on drop an anvil. It sets up an expectation, and then it slowly changes later on. And it later reads like Joey was the one under duress, even though it... And I will say that in all of these cases and all these things that we've studied, when there's a suicide note that includes this other person is not responsible, usually those are the ones where that other person is definitely responsible for. So it's certainly, and who's like reading their manifesto like that? It's not a manifesto, I should say. It's just a quick little confession. There's no need to read it off a piece of paper unless someone else wrote it for you. And that's not how we interpret it when we first see it. We just know that it's a really tense situation. And, we don't know anything else about the story. Like, this could have been the end.
Yeah.
Right? But later on, as we start thinking about it and we start evaluating these different characters and the facts of the case, then that whole thing takes on a different view, which I think is again, I don't want to say enjoyable, but I think it pays off for this audience.
Yeah. Laura, it seems like a very conventional way to open this documentary. We've watched a lot of documentaries lately that open with some sort of found footage or video or something. I love this opening because I've been thinking about this doc ever since I watched it. I keep thinking about the things I liked about it. It sort of reminds me of Murder on Middle Beach, where it sort of keeps replaying in my mind certain aspects of it. And I loved this opening because even though they don't tell you this, because of the way it contrasts later with what actually happened, it's almost like the audience gets a lesson in editing for true crime. Because imagine if that was the only part of the video we saw, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think it's setting you up to feel like, okay, we're going into this with one impression of what we think happened. But if you've watched true crime, you're like, okay, they're setting this up in a way to kind of play with our evolving understanding of what happened in this situation, because this is a 2-hour documentary. Like, if they're showing this confession in the first 5 minutes and that's what happened, that's a pretty bad documentary. Like, that's not satisfying, right? To have that in the beginning, because you're like, wow, holy crap. But I think what it does, it kind of plays with perception. And as it goes on, for me, I was going back and forth. Like, okay, was it Banis? Okay, was it Mundt? Okay, was it Banis? Okay, was it Mundt? Okay, is there another person involved that we're going to find out about? And I think that when you get the expanded view of all of the footage as this goes on, and you see the bigger picture here, and you also hear from people that used to work with Mundt, you realize, okay, this isn't as straightforward as it appears at first. But if you're a police officer and you've got some biases going in because you're dealing with the gay community and you get this tape, you're like, yeah, okay, sealed and signed and delivered. We know what's happening. But I think that was a really good sort of, okay, check your bias at the start and see where this goes, because it's not going to be where you think it's going to go.
Yeah. So, Toby, I don't want to say what are the chances, but seriously, what are the chances that this incredibly salacious crime that we're talking about almost 2 decades later, that the cop investigation took place in front of the cameras of the first 48? A show I've seen many times. Of course, we didn't see any footage from those cameras on this, but they did indicate to us that the presence of the cameras may have had an influence on some of the things we saw. What did you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think almost every time we see that stuff in sort of thoughtful documentaries, it really points to the sort of added pressure that's put on the police to come up with something very, very quickly. And I mean, this is the first 48 hours, right? So they've literally got 48 hours to figure something out. So whether they would have done things differently without the TV crews going, I mean, the only sort of direct effect you really see is there's like this brief exchange between Jeff Mundt and I guess a camera guy for 48 hours, and it lasts like 5 seconds or whatever, and they're not supposed to be talking. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure I sound like a broken record on this, but the skewing effect of the criminal justice system as entertainment for the masses, you know, the outcomes, it doesn't make the outcomes better, I would say, to have those pressures, right? The best you can hope for is they sort of ignore it and go forward the way they normally do. And then we've certainly seen instances of where it just goes horribly wrong. So it's a little bit hard. Like, I think sensibly they don't spend much time trying to evaluate how it changed things, but they do mention that, yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Like, they were doing this thing and people were like, oh shit, we got 48 hours or we're going to look like assholes on this national television show.
Right. And I wonder how it influenced, like, we know that being on TV influences the way cops behave, although these cops seem to behave fairly well. But I kept on myself thinking whether or not it influenced the way Jeff behaved.
Yeah.
Because we hear that he's a liar, that he's always like putting on characters and lying to people and stuff. And, you know, if there's a camera right there, people tend to become a little more performative. Like, I don't know, for instance, if the camera being there is why he folded his McDonald's wrapper into a perfect origami square. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. And I hope we really dig into Jeffrey's self-aggrandizement and all these sort of different things, right, that's peculiar about his personality. But, I mean, why would you, as a suspect, be okay with leaving the door open for the interview? I mean, you probably are aware of the surveillance camera, and that's where you got that thing from. But to have not an indiscreet camera, to have it set up on the sticks out the door with the door open while you're having this discussion, Like, why would you allow that? Because you want that to be seen, because it's playing into how you're going to approach this idea of like pretending that you don't know there's a dead body in your basement. That's the way you act. It's peculiar. It's like having to say to people, if you join us on Patreon, this wonderful thing is going to happen.
Yes.
I don't know. It's probably not anything like that, but
you're not going to find a body in your basement when you join us on Patreon.
We will not place one there. That's a promise.
That's true. We definitely
You can
won't.
take that to the bank.
We're in the business section.
If you join us at patreon.com/partners in crime media, you will get all sorts of exclusive content, including the Crime Writers on After Show. This week, we're going to talk about an industry thing. And we're talking about the 2026 AMBI Awards.
Oh, you can tell us who won?
I'll tell you who won. And there are certain things here that we covered. And we're in our top 10. And we'd love to get your reactions to what the Academy thinks, the Podcast Academy thinks is quality stuff, and what we think is quality stuff. That'll be a good discussion. Other exclusive content includes Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, our Married with Podcast Advice podcast. One of the questions that we tackled, someone wants to know if it's okay to cut one of the kids out of the will.
No. Next question.
Moving on. There is something off, and that's Something's Off, the podcast with Rebecca and Mel Barrett. And Trupa Procta from the Karen Reed case is back. And you have a whole rundown on what that means. We have...
Give Karen her phone's back, for fuck's sakes.
Can you believe all this? She still doesn't have her phone?
Nope.
There's so much candy that needed to be crushed. I would just say...
On her phone.
Well, on my phone, it definitely would be...
They're playing the New York Times Scrabble game on her phone.
Yeah, there's like so much Wordle to catch up on. If you join us at the Bricker Scale, you'll get an additional podcast. It's Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast. Laura, you have something in the works for the next episode, right?
I do. Yeah, you're going to find out how does somebody win the entire Westminster Dog Show agility contest? Like, what training goes into that? How do you get your dog to be totally codependent? And what do you feed your dog afterwards? Because that dog is from New Hampshire.
Yes.
Yeah. Meantime, our dog keeps waking us up at 2 a.m. so he can retch.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And if you join us at the Deep Diver level, you get to be official sponsors of Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast.
Wow.
And coming back after his 4-month hiatus, it is the next episode of the Deep Dive, and he's discussing the Lumumba plot. And Toby, who are going to be your guests?
It's going to be Livy Burdett and Alex Segura.
The former Spanish resident, Livy Burdett, you have so much in common.
Yes.
She'll tell you all the good places to go to drink.
Yeah, in Madrid, which I've not been to yet.
Completely different city where she lived.
It's all right. Spain, it's all just one neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's all one neighborhood.
It's just one town.
Exactly. All that is at patreon.com/partners in crime media. Another great way you can support us. Very easy. Go to the socials. Smash that button. Just follow us on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube, on Blue Sky, on X, and on Facebook, and join our Facebook discussion group. It's a great community. You find out all sorts of great stuff, and it helps keep our little podcast vibrant.
And sign up for our newsletter at crimewriterson.com. It's awesome. It comes out weekly, and it's basically a look inside Kevin's head. Kevin,
Yes.
does thus end the business section?
Thus ends the business section.
Let's go ahead and fade that music out.
Pay around the corner and around the globe. Apple Pay is accepted at millions of places worldwide, wherever you see the contactless symbol in stores or the Apple Pay button online and in apps. Whether you're checking out on iPhone or Apple Watch, just double-click, pay, and be on your way. Add your debit or credit card to wallet, and you're good to go. Pay the Apple way. Terms apply.
All of us strands are in real danger, and whatever it is, it's closing in. It started with just a few lost hairs here and there, but now more and more of us are disappearing every day. But listen, we think we have a plan. A way to stop the shedding. Pantene Abundant and Strong. Go now. It's not too late.
Pantene Abundant and Strong. It's a 3-step system that reduces hair loss by 85%. Only the strongest will survive the shedding.
Why have I asked my HVAC guy I found on Angie.com to change my grandpa's trachea tube? Because I was so amazed by how quickly he replaced our air ducts. I knew I could trust him to change Pop-Pop's tube while I was on vacation.
Make it quick, young man.
Aw, see? Pop-Pop trusts you.
I think we should call a doctor.
Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
Now, Laura, some would say, at a cursory glance, that Jeff and Joey seem like an unlikely pair. We have this guy who's kind of, for lack of a better sake, giving us some tweaker talk early in his life, as we're going to talk about in the next podcast. And then we have this guy who seems to be very buttoned up, office type dude. What do you think about, in particular, Jeff Mundt?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Rebecca.
Is it?
So, no, I think he's like a sociopath. And I'm not going to diagnose him. There's something, I found him to be very interesting, like you were talking about before with him being performative when the camera crew was there, because he comes across as like, just, oh, look at me, I'm just this computer guy. And he seems to be a little bit more sort of, you see the other guy who's got like the hair and he's a little bit more of a creative persona. And you see Jeff and you're like, yeah, okay, this guy needs to lighten up a little. Well, then you hear from the people that work with him who are talking about how you had to write in like the 14 specific font anytime you did a report and how if things weren't going his way, he was in his office with the heavy metal blaring. And then you hear, and this is probably a whole nother topic, you hear the comments from him and you hear the other side of him on all of these video recordings. And there's definitely more going on. It's I feel like a lot about control. I feel like he tries to play things so straight, like when he's testifying and has to talk about his sexual preferences and things he likes to do.
Party and play is PNP.
What's WS?
Water sports, primarily, I guess, gay term for urine.
Ass play and sensory deprivation. What does CBT mean?
Cock and ball torture. It means I like having my penis and my testicles played with hard.
You know he's doing it for the shock value, honestly, I feel like, but he's trying to do it like, well, yeah, I'm into this. I like my testicles painfully pinched or whatever it was he said. And he was very manipulative. That was the thing where I was going back and forth on this. I'm like, this guy, I feel like is the puppet master here. And I don't know if we're ever really going to know what happened, but I feel like at first blush, you see him and you think, oh, look at him. He's this nerdy little computer guy. Far from it. And I think that scene, I don't know if others felt that way, but I just felt like there was so much more to this guy in terms of his need to control the situation and the narrative.
Laura, you forgot to mention how he would just speak in a British accent.
All the time.
All the time. I forgot about that part.
Elizabeth Holmes energy.
Oh my God, yeah. And I know that people might say it's kink shaming by having the guy list all of the stuff that he's into, but I will say that when there's a person murdered in your house during sex and you have a long list of sadomasochistic fetishes, it is relevant.
Yeah.
Especially when, you're in a murder trial and you say that guy did it and you have to raise reasonable doubt. I'm sure that also, it was meant to shock the sensibilities of the Louisville jury, but probably didn't shock the jury as much as a homemade porno that they had to play out
in its entirety.
Well, they didn't, not to the finish, not to the conclusion, they said.
Not to the conclusion. Enough.
Didn't you love how all the court people were coming in to watch?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the court people.
The lawyers are just like head down. Just like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this.
Well, I love that. Somebody mentioned the bailiff, whatever, and then we get an interview with the bailiff.
It's like, why do we have the bailiff? Yeah.
Everybody, literally, they mention a person and then they interview that person.
Well, yes. I think that's who they get, so they find a way to mention them, but yeah.
Maybe. But it's just like it's almost like it appears as if the filmmakers went down a rabbit hole whenever they heard about someone, they wrote it on a list. They're like, okay, we need this person, this person, this person, this person. That's how it seems.
Yeah. I think that author hooked them up, right? He knew everybody.
Yeah. And where do they get all those glitter balls, those disco balls? They're like, when we go and interview, we're bringing this with us and finding a place to set it up.
I think some of the interviews were done in like a very moody Airbnb. Because a lot of them looked like they were in a big fancy house. And then some of them were in that one writer's house. He had the shelf of books behind him and you were spying on the books.
Yeah.
Kevin was like, let's zoom in and look at this guy's bookshelf.
Toby's probably familiar with a series of nonfiction books that's called My Struggle, which is
Nosgard,
which also is the English translation of Mein Kampf, right. So I was like, why are we zooming in on this teddy bear next to Mein Kampf? But it wasn't Mein Kampf. It's just someone with a provocative title.
What was in that teddy bear, Kevin? What was in that teddy bear?
Do I want to know?
Torture devices?
No, this was the author dude who had the books behind.
Yeah, well, don't be so sure.
Probably his costumes for his tour guiding were in there.
Yeah, I guess I'm not paying close attention to what he said if I'm looking up Mein Kampf, right?
Oh, we were paying attention to what he said as well.
All right, well, I'll just say it's,
So let's talk about Joey, Toby. Joey is the other suspect here. Joey has a much more, in my opinion, conventional bad boy story. He is into drugs, and he does things that a person into drugs might do. What did you think about Joey, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, he was like a somewhat shady dude who, he's working at a club and stealing all their liquor and their stereo stuff and bringing it down the block so he could open his own club with all that stuff.
They'll never know.
And he also would do meth and just do a great job of cleaning the club. So he seems like, he just seems like a guy who's a little bit on the margins. He spent some time. He's a convicted felon. He's HIV positive, he tells us, and then that's just never brought up again, which is fine. But that is sort of part of the way he's introduced. And I don't know whether this is part of what attracted Jeff to him, but if you just see sort of superficially the two of them, it looks like you got one straight-laced guy and one guy who's kind of nuts, Joey being the guy who's kind of nuts. But in fact, it's actually sort of the opposite way around, that Joey seems like, for a guy who's doing a lot of meth and sort of a party guy, he's not like a sociopathic mastermind. It doesn't seem
He's not an
like
onion with layers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's a what you see is what you get. He's a guy who likes meth.
Yep, likes meth and sex.
And money. And that's basically it. And I think almost everything he does, or everything we hear that he does, conforms with that.
Right.
He likes meth, sex, and money, and he wants somebody to sort of take care of him, to move in with. And it's so interesting because they keep referring to Joey's family as this upstanding family. It's the only people we don't get in this documentary. Right. I really wanted to meet Joey's parents so badly.
Yeah, it's like a plastic surgeon, I think.
Yes, his parents are fancy.
The other thing about Joey, if you haven't seen it, is that, at one point he had a colored mohawk that, he's got a distinctive look. He's not trying to blend in with the professional scene in Louisville. He looks like a punk, basically.
Yes. He looks like a bartender at a drag bar who steals liquor.
Yeah.
Exactly what he looks like.
So, but I think part of the, what this documentary does effectively is that without turning him into a saint, your idea of who he is changes quite a bit, especially in relationship to Jeff, so that whereas it starts, you're like, this guy seems sketchy, and you kind of hear these things like Jeff says about him that aren't sort of rebutted at that point. And then later on, when you kind of get, in some cases, some facts, and in other cases, you get Joey's sort of rebuttal in ways that seem completely in keeping with what might have actually happened versus what Jeff was saying before. Your opinion of him really changes. And I think that's part of what's good about this documentary.
And Laura, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think because we are introduced to Joey, right in the beginning here, and he comes off as desperate, there's a sense of desperation about him. We see that throughout, but we find out sort of later, what causes that desperation is completely different because it's a coercive relationship. So he may not be likable, but in that way, he's understandable and very much like characters that we've seen in other true crime documentaries. I don't know. That's my take. What
and
about
in real life.
In real life. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think I talked about this last week. You see these dynamics in, controlling or abusive relationships. And sometimes the person that is the initial abuser may not come across the same way because you see the person that has been the target of the abuse reacting with that reactive abuse. And so you see them and you're like, that person is definitely the one who's stirring the pot here. But when you get the whole backstory, you're like, no, it started with this other person. And eventually the person that's the target or the one that's being controlled is going to react. And that can be misinterpreted. So yeah, I think your opinion of him evolves. And I think one of the things that was super effective that they did at the end, I thought was super clever, is when they put side by side both of their testimony.
That was incredible.
That was so like, I was like, that is so effective. Oh, wow. Because it was like, even at the end, you're like, okay, yeah, I hear what this person says, but then I hear what this person says. And you can see why Joey's attorney is still so fired up on behalf of him being the one that's serving this like really like life sentence, right? Without parole.
Yep.
And the other guy got what, 2 years?
He's out.
He's out.
Like hanging
he
out
got
somewhere,
like,
maybe
yeah,
in
he got
Baltimore.
like
We don't know.
2 years or something. And you're like, okay, the scales of justice here did not really work the way that they should have. And it's like you could only see the side by side when that second trial happened. And Mundt came in with that attorney who was like, you know, the money man or whatever they called him, who was just like the fixer.
I don't know where Jeff pulled it from, but he got a gun, and it was the .38 Smith & Wesson.
Joey takes several steps back and grabs a gun.
And he shot Jamie.
And Joey shot him, I believe, twice.
I thought Jeff was perhaps going to shoot me. He said he would kill me and kill my family.
He would go and kill my family and kill my cats.
Usually the trial part of a crime story is, in my opinion, one of the more boring parts because it's like trials are very conventional. I can only think of very few instances where we watched good trial stuff on documentaries.
Jinx 2.
Jinx 2, the Alex Jones documentary.
Staircase.
The Staircase, and this.
Yeah.
I fucking loved the way they did it because they had the same opening statement. The prosecutor tried it the same way both times. One time it landed, one time it didn't.
The plastic bin.
Exactly. Dragging out that big plastic bin. We have, you know, and then you see that Jeff basically says everything that Joey said, but blaming everything on him. Kevin, what did you think about that scene? How that was cut?
Oh, no, I'm with Laura on that. I thought it was a great show. Don't tell. And, you know, again, it's the kind of thing where what you can hear from Joey from his own mouth and not from this video from the beginning. He really comes off as credible. You think back to like that first, interview scene. Like he's not spinning the fact that there's a body in the basement like we see Jeff do. He's just kind of like saying it because he knows like it's important to say it. Self-serving, yes, but he's just and then that's where we see him at trial. It's great. And also the thing is we don't get any commentary about it.
Yeah.
Right? We're not like hearing like, well, I would have gone after this. My next thing was to do this. And he comes off saying like, nobody says that. Just put it side by side, same points, let you figure it out.
One of the other side-by-side moments, Toby, that I found interesting was, so there's the video, which you mentioned. The beginning, we see it as a suicide video where he's taking all the blame. And then we see later in the documentary that Jeff wrote a script for him to say and basically like got him to do this. And it's a similar situation with that testimony. And there's another similar situation where we have the 911 tape of Jeff being locked in a room and he says Joey is trying to get in and kill him. And Joey's like, no, I was just in the house and he was faking that to get them to come arrest me. And I sort of found myself thinking after this, was his saying the body was there, like, was he like relieved to be able to be like, there's a fucking body in the basement? Like, it just makes you wonder, like, what the control was like in this relationship. Because as we see later, like, what does Jeff's ex-boyfriend say later? He says that they lived with a body in the basement for 6 months after this whole thing. But what did you think about those contrasting pieces of media we saw? The trial testimony and the 911 call and that suicide video. Like, do you think those are all parallel, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, I think the suicide video and the 911 call are very, they kind of play out the same way, which is that you get an initial impression, and then when you get a little more information, it kind of flips a little bit. And the side-by-side video in the trial, it's one of those things where it's like, one guy's lying all the time, one guy's telling the truth all the time. Can you figure out which one is which? And
exactly.
Whoever is lying, like, it's a great strategy because it's just like, it's going to fit all the facts, basically, because you know exactly what happened. You're just putting the other guy in the frame. And then because you're telling the true story, just mixing the people up, you don't have to worry about like tripping over details and stuff that usually if you make up a lie, like the only thing you're doing is substituting names. So yeah, I just kind of feel like in this documentary, for the most part, they make really smart choices in what they show you and then how they kind of parse out information later to make you sort of reassess your initial thoughts about things. And they do it in a way that doesn't feel cheap, really. You don't feel like they've been withholding and are then sort of doing this for sort of the shock value. It all kind of makes sense in the flow of the narrative. Yeah, so it was interesting. And it also sort of, again, I think most people will come away with this probably having more sympathy for Joey than for Jeff. Like Jeff definitely comes across.
I hope so.
As being the mastermind on this stuff. And you can kind of see he wasn't just sort of playing the cards as they were dealt to him. Like he was like setting things up as things went along so that there was sort of this momentum building for Joey to take the fall if the body got discovered, which is, what happened.
I'll say one thing that confused me about this documentary, and it's no fault of the filmmakers, is that all three people involved have names that start with J. We've got Joey, Jeff, and Jamie. Jamie is the victim in this story. And Kevin, I think the portrayal of the victim, it's so hard to do, right? Because this story, like a lot of stories, it's kicked off by discovering a body, right? And all the intrigue and all the story that we see plays out after that. I think they do a really good job sort of exploring Jamie's backstory too. The story deserves to be told, right?
Yeah, and again, this is another person on the margins here. I think this is a recurring theme in this documentary. It has some quirky stuff. It has some very hardcore crime stuff, but it also tries to say something about the life of LGBTQ people in this region at this time. And it seems like 2009, somebody like Jamie might have a different quality of life today than
maybe not.
Maybe not. You'd like to think so, but it certainly, is sad because this was somebody like, I think, right, Toby, like he was abused by his father and he had a hard upbringing too. And, he wanted to do his own hair salon and like kind of got pushed out of that. I mean, just he needed to catch a break. And this, ending was not befitting of him.
Yeah. I think it's really telling when people who are from the downtrodden town describe their own town as a downtrodden town, right? Like that's like, it's got to be not great when people who live there are like, oh, it's a real shithole. Yeah.
Yeah. Things sucked and then meth came.
Exactly. Kevin.
Yes.
Who are we sponsored by this time?
We're sponsored by Quince.
Oh, my favorite.
Quince is all about elevated essentials that feel effortless, designed for layering and mixing. Each piece helps build a timeless wardrobe made to last. Rebecca, have you ever purchased anything from Quince?
Well, Kevin.
All right, hold on. Let's just set the scene. I actually have here a bag. Says Quince on the outside. This is your latest purchase. Let's do an unbagging.
It was just delivered today.
Mm-hmm.
And you made me wait.
I know.
All right, let's see what I got here.
Let's show me. Now, you know what this is. I don't.
Okay.
Oh, that's a nice sweater.
It is a Luxe baby cashmere cardigan, cable knit.
Oh, this feels nice. Cable knit. What's the color?
I think this is the oatmeal. It's a very icy. It's so beautiful. This was one of my aspirational sweaters, and then I saw it at Quince, and I was like, oh my God.
And you got it.
I did.
Yeah, okay. So Rebecca single-handedly keeping everybody at Quince employed.
Thanks.
And you can help them too by refreshing your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too.
Yay!
That's QUINCE.com/crime.
Crime.
Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crime.
Cashmere. Crime.
Hey everybody, it's Babs. I am so excited to tell you about Birch Lane, a brand that shares my passion for classic style and joyful living. Their classic furniture and decor helps you celebrate it all, from big holiday gatherings to everyday moments at home. Each piece is carefully crafted and delivered fast and free so you can celebrate what matters most. Shop my hand-picked Birch Lane collection and more classic styles at birchlane.com.
Tonight's meal, tilapia surprise with boiled cabbage. Begin cooking steps 1 through 50 now.
Are you kidding me? Making dinner shouldn't feel like doing a 1,000-piece puzzle. With Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals, the hard part's already done. Pre-chopped ingredients, zero stress. Just assemble, bake, and enjoy. No complicated steps, no mountain of dishes. Try Assemble and Bake today. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes, so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews, all on the app. Download today.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Murder in Glitterball City? It's an HBO documentary. It is 2 parts. Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for Murder in Glitterball City?
Yeah, this is a thumbs up for me. I really like this. I actually ended up watching it twice. It has all of the things that I like. It's got quirky characters. A lot of them weren't necessarily relevant to the crime here, but it set the scene of the area we're in much in the same way, like if you used to watch that show City Confidential, or the one I always mention, I think Toby does as well, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, where you've got this sort of Southern, eccentric gay community. And it's really, you've got a cast of characters in this community. You've got really interesting history. And you've got a really not straightforward crime at the center of this. And it's who's the reliable narrator here? Who are we going to believe as this is going on? I thought this was really interesting. And also, I think this might be a spoiler, but I'm going to say it. I had no idea that the disco ball originated in Kentucky. That's not where I would have thought the origin of the disco ball glitter ball was, but something I learned in this documentary. So big thumbs up for me.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Murder in Glitterball City?
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up too. I mean, the thing starts strong. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say all is not as it seems at the beginning. You know how much I love subcultures. There's definitely some subculture stuff going on. There's just interesting characters. The way the filmmakers kind of dole out information, I thought it's both its pacing and then it's also what does the viewer know at different times. And the way I feel like they handled that stuff was really, really effective, so that when surprises come or when you find out things that are sort of startling or make you reassess, like it feels right. Like you don't feel like you're being manipulated. It feels as though it kind of naturally flows in the story. And I think that's a tough trick to pull off. And we've definitely seen things where I felt as though filmmakers were manipulative and didn't really play fair with their audience. In this case, I think they definitely do. Yeah, I just, there's some unique aspects to it as well that I think worked pretty well, even though if you kind of described them to me, I would have been like, maybe not. But they work well here. So anyway, really well done. Big thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
I'm also a thumbs up. I mean, this surely attempts to create a mood and an effect for what has been told certainly more conventionally other places. The true crime part of it is really good, and they do capture it in a way that has a little bit of misdirection, very thoughtful, but it also has this very quirky side, and it seems to try to balance Southern Gothic with city biography with absurdist nonfiction, and it's like peanut butter and chocolate, and for some reason, it goes together just perfectly. And so where it could have leaned too much on one flavor as opposed to the other, like somehow they make these two things go together, and it makes for a very interesting, very compelling, and very watchable documentary. So I'm a thumbs up for Murder in Glitterball City.
I'm a huge thumbs up for this documentary. There's no way it's not going to make my top 10 list at the end of the year. I loved it. I was very captivated by it. The framing device is super clever. It has enough moments of lightness that you are able to bear descriptions of an incredibly grisly, difficult crime story, but it also doesn't make light of the crime itself, even as you find yourself having these moments of like, that's absurd, that's silly, and you sometimes laugh during the documentary. It's so good. It reminds me, the last documentary I sort of felt that way about was The Program, which was deeply funny and also very dark, and that's kind of how this is. This does sense of place super well. You can say it might be overdone, fraught. I don't think so. I really think that the people who live in this one neighborhood in Louisville have very strong feelings about it. And the crime that took place there is a big part of their identity. And I think it's kind of important to really suck us into that sense of place. But they also suck us into a sense of place in a drag bar. And they suck us into a sense of place in this like kind of downtrodden town that they go to. It just paints a really full picture of just about everything. And I love something that introduces you to a bunch of people that you will never meet in your life, never meet anybody like them in your life. And boy, this documentary is like a deck of cards of characters. Like, it's really incredible. So huge thumbs up for me. I can't recommend it highly enough. I'm going to be talking about it for a long time to come. So big thumbs up for Murder in Glitterball City. All right, now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of the Week. Police in Bangkok were finally able to capture an elusive burglar by going undercover, disguised as a lion for Lunar New Year. Video shows the cops wearing a traditional papier-mâché head and two-man costume, dancing toward the culprit at a holiday fair. Once they were close enough to their prey, they pounced for the takedown. They'd been trying to nab this serial burglar for weeks, but each time he spotted the cops closing in and made a quick getaway. Authorities say among the suspect's targets was a home he broke into 3 times, and that home belonged to a police commander. Investigators thought this time the criminal would not see them coming in their holiday outfit. After the arrest, the man confessed to stealing about $50,000 in cash and jewels. So, panel, these cops found a very clever way to get their man. What is their next deep undercover operation? What do you think, Laura?
Well, Rebecca, you have inspired me because that was actually going to be my answer. They're going undercover to find who is starting forest fires dressed as Smokey Bear.
What do you think, Toby? What is the next deep undercover operation for these cops?
I think they're going to get a bunch of wood, bang together a horse, and roll it up to the city gates.
Oh, what do you think, Kevin?
I think they're going to be dressed as Santa Claus to find out who's been stealing all that milk.
Oh, I think they're going to go as like the Snoopy balloon in the Thanksgiving Day parade. The video is incredible.
Doing surveillance.
I saw this video. It's incredible. The guys are underneath the costume, like it's moving just like you would imagine, and then they just throw it off. It's like, it's honestly very
You got to have multiple skills when you're in the police department in Bangkok.
You got to be able to know that Lunar New Year costume. It's kind of incredible.
Next time, we're going to do the dragon.
All right, Laura Bricker, if folks want to find you online to say hi, how can you be found on social media?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Instagram and Blue Sky.
What about you, Toby? Why don't you go ahead and plug your projects and socials?
Listen to More Like Ancient Aliens. It drops every Friday. I am on Instagram at TobyBall603 and Blue Sky at TobyBallNH.
What about you, Kevin? How can you be found?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
Also, you make a Law & Order podcast that folks should watch called These Are Their Stories.
It's called These Are Their Stories.
You can find me on Something's Off. We broadcast live on Mondays and Thursdays, and you can watch the video whenever you want. You can follow me on social everywhere at Reb Lavoie. Follow the show everywhere at Crime Writers On, but mostly you should join our incredible Facebook group. Everybody there is rad. Get episodes early and ad-free, and everything else we make at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons, and our line editor is the terrific literary Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in the Caitlin Rogers Project Studio, also known as Studio C, The Closet, in our New Hampshire basement, where we also make everyone in town read aloud from our overly dramatic true crime books. Facts. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
I just want to mention one thing that drove me crazy throughout this entire documentary, and it's not the filmmaker's fault, but why the fuck is his book in italics? Can you imagine reading an entire book that was just printed in italics?
Nope.
I couldn't figure that out.
Control I, yeah.
It's not very disability friendly for sure. It's not very accessible.
And I wasn't sure if that was like a mocked up book, but if you did that, why would you turn everything into italics? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I could not get past that. I was just like, every time we went to that thing, I'm like, Jesus. Like the first couple times I was like, oh, well, maybe this is just like a little like section where he goes into italics, but no, the whole freaking thing. All right. Sorry.
I thought you were going to talk about your mirror ball phobia there for a second.
Mirror ball phobia. Yeah. I love mirror balls.
The glitter ball phobia.
Partners in Crime Media.
Why have we asked our contractor we found on Angie.com to be our kids' legal guardian? Because he took such good care when redoing our basement that we knew we could trust him to care for our kids, all 8 of them, should something happen to us.
Are you my dad now?
No, sorry, I do basements. Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.